Welcome to the virtual memorial service for B. Parnes. B passed away on August 14th at the age of 102. She lived a long and full life, and that is what we are remembering and celebrating today. Over the next hour, we'll be hearing from individuals who knew B well in a variety of settings. They'll be sharing their thoughts about B and her remarkable impact on so many individuals. We'd also like you to be able to share as well. Please use the Zoom chat function to enter your personal thoughts and reflections. While doing so, please make sure that your chat is set to everyone, so your comments will show up on the transcript of the session. As we understand it, the chat content directed to an individual does not become part of the transcript. We are recording this session, and the chat contents for the Parnes family, many of whom are with us today. Please leave your microphones muted during this memorial service. So let's begin our time together by hearing directly from B.
When Sid went to see Alex, they were all men. and I said to Sid, well, what happened to the women? So they did bring their wives, and I said, well, the wives have to know what their husbands are doing here. So I started a women's group, and I invited the leaders that could teach, and so they would know what their husbands are doing. They could have a conversation with them. Otherwise, you go to a conference. Do you know what your wife's doing? And that's really what happened.
And then, was there a point at which that became just fully come be part of SIPSI?
Yeah. Well, the wives got interested in what their husbands were doing, and that did bring more wives to SIPSI.
That's great.
And that's what started it all. That's how you grow. And it's the women that do it.
Since the time that Alex Osborne and Sid Parnes began their collaboration, there's been a strong connection between the Osborne and Parnes families. Joining us today is John Osborne. John, you've known B. Parnes for many years, and during that time, you had the opportunity to work with her on a number of endeavors. Could you share with us some of your thoughts?
Yes, it's great to be here and see everyone. And well, it was 1967. It was the year after my grandfather, Alex Osborne, died, and I was 14. And I was invited to participate as a student aide at my first Creative Problem Solving Institute. And that's where I got to first met Sid and B. And if not that year, within a year or two, Sue Parnes, because we were student aides running around with coffee pots and flip charts. But my relationship with B evolved from seeing her, really meeting her the first time in the 1960s. It was the wife, and I'm so glad to have seen that clip, which I don't think I've ever seen before, because that was my first impression. Oh, that's Sid's wife, kind of a sidekick. And that was not an uncommon way of viewing wives in the 60s. But that was not Sid and B's relationship at all. Over the decades, I saw how integral she was to the creative thinking movement in her own right, and not just Sid's partner. And it was her directness and communication skills that complemented Sid's capacity. Sid could hold space for everyone at the same time. If Sid was the personification of divergent thinking, then B was the boundary setter. She instinctively knew where the edges were, and the two of them were brilliant together. I remember my aunt, Marn Osborne, who for years was on the board at the Creative Education Foundation and would go to the SIPSIs. And I don't think she had the confidence, as the daughter of the great man, I don't think she had the confidence to really sort of know what her place was. But with B as a role model, Marn just thrived. She just thrived at Creative Education Foundation and at SIPSI, and really it pulled her out of herself. But I think for B, it was that idea of forging the path of a woman of service and leadership over so many years was just a touchstone for my aunt. And I love how Bee would share personal memories of my grandfather, often with a twinkle in her eye over what a character he was. I didn't get to see my grandfather that way. Um, but as I said to Sue and the family, when Bee died in August, what an inspiration she was for me. And I think for all who knew her and worked with her. And it was that the constant co-creating and expanding the ideas of collaboration within their marriage and within their family and beyond that really touched me. I think, like, for me, and I suspect for anyone who knew them, whoever faced a life challenge, a relationship challenge, a business challenge, whatever, they were the model and spirit of creativity. They were the ones that could turn a challenge into an opportunity. Just, just watching them was miraculous for me and really helped me in my life. I was forever changed. And because of that, I carry B and Sid forward with me every day of my life. So thank you for having me here to just share those thoughts.
Thank you, John. Teresa Amable is the Edsel Bryant Ford Professor Emerita at Harvard Business School, and we are pleased to have her joining us from Amherst, Massachusetts. Teresa, you've had a close personal connection with Bee and consider her to be a role model. Would you tell us more about that connection that you shared with Bee?
I'd love to, Bill. The first time I saw Bee Parnes, I didn't actually see her. I saw an excited crowd of young adults moving through a hallway at SIPSI, focusing their attention on someone in the middle of their group that I couldn't see because that someone was much smaller than most of those young adults, and so was I. When the crowd finally parted, there she was, Bee, talking with great animation to a young woman who was beaming from ear to ear. I never learned what they'd been discussing, but in the years I was privileged to know Bee Parnes, I learned why many of us beamed when we conversed with her. Bee was both interesting and interested, eager to share her thoughts, but equally eager to know what you thought and why. She was both imaginative and sensible, a particularly valuable combination in a room full of creative thinkers. She got to the heart of things, and she got things done. What a role model for all of us. One of my most precious moments with Bee was a dinner we shared during a special Creative Education Foundation event in Atlanta several years ago. I believe it was shortly after Sid died, and I was very glad to see that she had come to be with us. We were at a table with a number of other people, but because we were seated right next to each other at one end of the table, we had a lovely private conversation about some of the difficult things we were both going through. And we held hands. What a joy to hold that woman's soft hand, a hand that had done so many wonderful things. Like each of us, I will never forget the beautiful person who was Bee Parnes and the immense gifts she brought to our world. Thank you, Bill.
Teresa, thank you. Joette Field, over the years, has had the opportunity to spend a considerable amount of one-on-one time with Bee in a number of informal settings. This is particularly true at several SIPSIs, where she willingly took on the role of being a companion to Bee. Joette, you became affectionately known as the beekeeper. Would you share about that experience and your memories of Bee?
Oh, I sure will. Yes, I think it was Kristen Peterson who gave me the amazing title of beekeeper for Bee at SIPSI. And I loved my title and I was really honored by it. But we all know who the beekeeper was. Bee was the queen bee who pollinated the hives around her, from family and friends to SIPSI events around the world in her own unique bee way, allowing each of us to bloom in our own unique way, allowing us to witness our own creativity. And she did this all just by being bee. Of course, it took me a while to see the power behind this tiny but enigmatic woman. Here's the many sides of bee. Bee was a space maker, is one of Sid's students from the undergrad experimental program and then the emerging graduate program. Bee would invite 2 or 3 of us to their home in Williamsville, where we would take a swim to process our intense classes for the day and developing the grad program. Later, we would have a dinner or a snack. And at first, I didn't quite understand this extension of hospitality, but I do now. Bee provided that space, that special space, to decompress and debrief. And by the way, I never learned to swim. Then, following the same space holding theme, every year around the close of SIPSI, Sid and Bee would open their home in Williamsville to all SIPSI attendees. This gave us a chance to experience closure while we were all riding high from our SIPSI week. It gave us a space to connect and build that creative community that supported us and each other throughout the year until we got our next SIPSI fix. And of course, there was Bee the person. Besides her honest description of Sid as being her hottie, Bee the beekeeper asked me to take her shopping too. And she wanted to go at age 91 to buy a new bathing suit and a few extra SIPSI things to make her SIPSI week special. The essence of Bee. Bee, a devoted wife, mom, grandmom, feminist, warrior, author, a subtle but powerful force. Bee was the inspiration behind the inspiration, the beekeeper for so many. Fly high, Bee, and thanks for the ride.
Thank you, Joette. Gerard Puccio is the chair of the Creativity and Change Leadership Department at Buffalo State University. Gerard, as a longtime chair at the center, you've been in a position of building on and advancing the legacy of both Sid Parnes and Alex Osborne. Over time, you've developed a close relationship with Bee, especially when leading the effort to establish the Innovation Suite at the university, a project that we all know was very close to Bee. Gerard, we welcome your thoughts.
Well, thank you, Bill. I'll share 2 specific thoughts with respect to Bee. First, as John pointed out, Bee was truly a partner for Sid, not only his wife, but also in his work in the field of creativity. And as you heard in that opening video, Bee helped to drive creativity programming at SIPSI. And when we go through our archival collection of material that we hold here at Buffalo State, that was donated to us from the Creative Education Foundation, the frequency with which her name appears in this material illustrates how involved Bee was in those early days in our field. And that brings me to my second point. This also represents a transition, and Bee has been instrumental in helping us make this transition. Bee was a major donor to the Center for Applied Imagination, and specifically, Bill, as you mentioned, to our Innovation Suite project. Bee cared deeply about our academic department. And as I did with Sid, whenever I visited with Bee, she was always eager to receive updates on our program here at Buffalo State University. With primary thanks to Sid, Bee, and Ruth Noller, we have a remarkable rich history as a pioneering creativity program in higher education. And as we celebrate the establishment of other creativity programs and universities around the world, we also wish to celebrate and highlight our unique history. With Bee's generous gift, we will do exactly this through the creation of the Sid and Bee Parnes Creativity Collection in Butler Library at Buffalo State. This will be both a physical and digital space created within our campus that will showcase the archival material we hold and we believe is important to make accessible to the rest of the world. When Bee made her donation, she made one request. And this speaks volumes about Bee's leadership. She requested that the space not only showcase Sid's work, but that it had to feature other scholars and contributors who were instrumental in establishing our field. Bee, thank you for your leadership over the many decades and your continued leadership by paying it forward in so many ways. Thank you, Bee. Bill, back to you.
Thank you, Gerard. We know that the Innovation Suite was very close to Bee and to the Parnes family, and it's going to be a remarkable tribute to Sid and Alex and so many other people in the field. Well, joining us now is Bill Hartwell, Sue's husband and Bee's favorite son-in-law, and he's here with us today to offer a musical tribute.
Hi, everybody. I wrote this song about 40 years ago at a request from Sid after attending my first SIPSI session. And I think the very first people who ever heard this song were Sid, Bee, and my wife, Sue. And I had to get their approval before I released it to the world. And Sid and Sue I was comfortable with. Bee, I knew I had to really impress her just because I'd used the title of Sid's book in this song, so it needed to be good. And so I was very nervous when I played it, but she was very approving and supported me for the next 40 years in any music endeavors that I tried to do, and supported our family tremendously over the years. So this song is for Bee. It's called The Magic of the Mind. Everyone can wonder, and everyone can dream. Everyone can wish for all they've heard but never seen. Those who realize their dreams of all they hope to find are those who know the secrets and the magic of mind. All the wise ones of the world are just like you and me. Hemingway or Gershwin, Picasso or Curie. Einstein solved the mysteries of earth and space and time. They live their lives believing in the magic of mind. Oh, let your imagination take you anywhere you want to go. No, there are no limitations for all that your mind has to show. The magic of the mind help you grow. What makes a woman successful? What makes a brave man bold? What is it that controls your heart and makes the young ones old? Every question that's been raised throughout the course of time has an answer that is hidden in the magic of mind. And you can find it by believing.
Thank you, Bill. That was beautiful. We invite everyone to continue to add your thoughts and reflections on the life and the legacy of B. Parnes in the chat of this Zoom meeting. Please remember to make sure that your chat is addressed to everyone rather than a specific individual. These will appear in a transcript that will be shared with the Parnes family. Thank you very much for the so many tributes that have already been paid in the chat function. Beth Miller, as the executive director of the Creative Education Foundation, understands deeply the influential role that B played in SIPSI and the CEF over the years. Of particular interest to B was the Parnes Fellowship. Beth, can you share your thoughts on B's legacy and the fellowship?
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. When I first started, one of the most exciting projects that had begun right at the start of my tenure was the Parnes Fellowship Program. And we have Deborah Reshi and Maham both on this call, two of our original Parnes Fellows. I still remember picking Maham up at the airport after her very long, grueling trip to the very first SIPSI, and how much fun it was to spend time with her. And the spirit of the Parnes Fellowship was in keeping with Sid and Alex's original dream for CEF, which was that they could bring creative problem solving training to people all around the world so that they could transform their little corner of the world with creative problem solving, indeed igniting a global movement, which I'm still very dedicated to trying to do. The Parnes Fellows really exemplify that. We worked for many years to continue that fellowship. Bee's investment in it was not only financial. She had great care of the fellows. She was devoted to them. She attended their presentations and still visited frequently with Maham for many years after her tenure as a fellow. Today, we continue the fellowship legacy by taking a global approach, which was a strategic shift in how we did the fellowship to make sure that it was sustainable and make sure that we could spend more time with the fellows and work with them. We are working with an array of nonprofit organizations in the Western New York area that serve immigrant and displaced persons. And in that way, we're taking a global but local approach. And this was an inspired shift by the late Claire Duss and Bill Shepard that is allowing us to extend the reach of the Parnes Fellowship. I am currently in conversations with all of these nonprofits to work on some collaborative partnerships that could garner us some significant grant funding to expand the fellowship even further by working very closely with these organizations that serve global communities. So please stay tuned for that. I am so deeply grateful to Bee for her vision, for her tenacity, for her generosity, and I will miss her very much. And with that, I will turn it over to Maham so you can hear from her yourself.
Thank you, Beth. Now, one of the things that before Maham comes on, I wanted to underscore something that you said, Beth, that the fellowship was so close to Bee's heart. I remember distinctly over the several SIPSIs when the fellows were able to be there. When Bee would come, one of the first things she would be saying is, "Okay, when are we going to be meeting the fellows?" And we are so pleased that Maham Bukan is with us today from Pakistan. Maham was a fellow in the first cadre of the Parnes Fellowship and stayed in contact with Bee in the following years. Other than family members, Maham was the last person to visit Bee prior to her passing. Maham, we're so glad that you're here, and we welcome your thoughts on your relationship with Bee.
Thank you, Bill. I feel really honored to be able to say a few words about our beloved Bee. I met her around the same time 10 years ago, back in 2014, when she interviewed me for the Parnes Fellowship. And I remember the call started and there was this adorable lady sitting on the other side of the screen. And she had the most thoughtful questions for me about my application. And it was very clear to me how much the fellowship meant to her. And over the years, we kept in touch. She would send me the sweetest emails. And I remember which Beth also mentioned, in 2016, when me and the other fellows presented our community projects, she attended the talks and she was paying so much attention. It really brought me so much joy that she was so dedicated and she was so interested in the work that we were doing in our hometowns, in our communities. I think I have said it before and I'll say it again. I really, really believe that that day when she recommended me for the fellowship, we put her faith in me and really changed my life for the better. And the work that Sid and B and the Parnes family are doing and have done so far is really making a real difference in this world. And I feel really lucky to be a small part of this incredible legacy. And as we celebrate her life today and talk about her, I'm sure she's in a better place now. And all my love and prayers to the Parnes family. Thank you so much for organizing such a beautiful, such a lovely event. And thanks everyone for being here.
Maham, thank you so much. One of the things that we know about Bee is that she believed and was an advocate and a believer how important it was to make creative problem solving available to the widest audience possible. Towards that end, she was an advocate of geographically dispersed regional programs designed to teach CPS to wider audiences. Walter Stevenson was a participant and ultimately a leader in a number of those early regional programs. Walter, we look forward to your thoughts on Bee's important role in those programs.
Sure, Bill. We think about the regionals and, well, first of all, we think about Buffalo, and then we think about the regionals and places like Davis and San Diego and La Jolla, Los Angeles, and even Fresno. I don't know if you know about that. Florida, Epcot. B was a real promoter of getting the word out and actually framing it in an institute that was regional, somewhat different than a Buffalo experience. She recognized the need for regionals and assisted in incorporating regionals into the vision and the mission of SIPSI and CEF. She was a big player in the strategy of dispersing the Institute. She enthusiastically became a pioneering activist for bringing CPS ideas to audiences outside of Buffalo. She actively supported and promoted regionals. She did the muscle work to make it happen. I have a couple things I remember. The first is I was at a regional in La Jolla, and the coffee break time came, and B had excused herself a little early and went over to a side table and poured the instant coffee into the hot water. And then we had a coffee break. And I always thought that was really something. And I thought, well, maybe they saved some money. But now that I think about it, that was probably one of the ways that they could capitalize this amazing extension of the Buffalo program. I mean, think about it. Across the states and even across the world. She did the muscle work to make this happen. She made instant coffee. She stored used crayons and paper in her garage so that facilitators could come and take it for their sessions. And she was always physically present. Thanks, B, because Davis in 1971, a regional, one of the first, is how I got introduced to the wonderful world of SIPSI and creativity. Thanks again, B. Bill?
Thank you, Walter. Joining us from West Tisbury on Martha's Vineyard is Bob Johnston. Bob has a long career as a consultant and an author in the innovation field, and that started as he was one of the first students in the Buffalo State Master's Program. Bob, you've known B since those early days, and you have insight into the global impact that B and Sid have had. Can you share your thoughts on their impact?
Happy to, Bill. Thanks so much. I first met B and Sid when I was 28, at a time when I needed both direction and inspiration. They became, in the truest sense, my life's raft. What struck me immediately about B were her shimmering, high beam, smiling eyes that seemed to see possibility in everything and everyone, like Sid. She was the ballast to Sid's sail, grounding his visionary spirit while maintaining her own remarkable ability to envision possibility and attending to the practical details that would make dreams real, as others have noted. Their impact on the then frontier of creativity and innovation can't be overstated. As pioneers in the field, they approached their work with a higher purpose, like Gandhi, always focused on how their efforts might create new value for the world. Their influence touched countless lives across continents, from the halls of Buff State and Sipsey to Prague, to Mexico, to Johannesburg, and beyond. It was remarkable how, in any setting, people were drawn to them. I remember arriving in Prague for a European Innovation Conference in the early 90s, worried about finding them in such a large place, only to discover that after a day, everyone in the conference center knew Sid and B, and the mention of their name brought a smile to their face. For 45 years, their teachings formed the bedrock of my professional journey, from Buffalo to Synectics to Ideascope, and from leading the Product Development and Management Association to now working with Global Islands on environmental sustainability. Their wisdom was always present, always resonant. Now, as we bid farewell to B at the remarkable age of 102, through their teachings, their example, and the countless lives they've touched, B and Sid's legacy lives on in every creative solution, every moment of inspiration, and every act of mentorship for their students and friends will pass on to others. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bob. You know, Sid and B's impact is something that is one of the reasons why there are so many people and so many states, regions, and countries represented in the participants in this memorial service for B. In addition, we have Kubis Nething coming to us from South Africa. Kubis has been a leader for many years at SIPSI, and in addition to that, he worked with Sid and B on creativity programs and video production in his native South Africa. Kubis, thank you for joining us today. We're so happy that you're here. We're looking forward to your reflections on that special relationship that you had with Sid and B.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the honor to be with you today. Yeah, there's so many memories. I met B for the first time, I think it was in 1990 at a conference, and then she came up to me and invited me to the SIPSI in 1991, which I attended. And I think there the journey started, a journey of decades with Sid and B. And we traveled all over the world. And I always felt at ease and comfortable because I know B had it controlled. She was, looking back, she was probably our manager, I would guess so. She was making sure that everything was there and everything was right. I remember taking notes. Sid and I, we were never good note takers. We wrote little pieces on pieces of paper and on napkins and serviettes, and we took that with us. But B made sure that we had our notes with us. And so we traveled the world all over. And then in Africa, I'll never forget B's first morning in Africa, walking down that hill in the African bush to the swimming pool in a bathing suit, jumping into the water, doing a few lengths. And I was watching the African woman, watching B in total awe and admiration. And still today, they still admire B. She is still that heroine of 20, 30 years ago. And I remember another wonderful memory of B is when Sid and I wrote the TV series Creating a Miracle. B was actually there right in the middle of that. She was giving ideas all the time, making sure that we were there, we were on time, and contributing as we went along. So much so that a few years ago, I met up with the producer of that program. And he didn't ask Kubis, how are you doing? He didn't say, where was Sid? What's he doing? He said, how is B doing? We showed the impact she had on that production. It was completely and absolutely amazing. And I remember in the different conferences where we were, that was B was there, the stalwart. For me, I loved, walking up to B and giving her a hug. And in October next year, we will have our 29th international conference. And I will make sure that we honor B like we honored Sid, because I think and I believe that B needs global honoring, not only honoring there in the Buffalo area, but she needs global honoring, and we will do so next year in October. And I would like to end with a Hebrew quote that says, say not in grief that B is no more, but live in thankfulness that she was. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Kubis. Calling in from Sarasota, Florida is Kitty Heisner. Kitty shared with B an interest and a belief in education for all. Kitty, you've been with B many times when she interacted with young people. Would you share your thoughts on B and her special interest in education?
Oh, I will, Bill. And I am so sorry for the fugalities I had there. But anyway, it's an honor to share how significant B was in encouraging the inclusion of creativity and creative thinking in learning for all children, all students of all abilities. And I think that as an educator, that was something that was so important. My daughter came to SIPSI from the time she was 7. And I have, in thinking about today, I have such a fond memory of seeing Becca with B. And at first they were sort of on a par as far as height, but then Becca continued to grow legs, and I have wonderful visual images of Becca running to find B and hugging her to her body, and just how important. But I know that ability to encourage the inclusion of creative thinking in both formal and informal education, which B really advocated for, is so important, and a mission many of us are continuing to forward. So I thank the world for B and for her encouraging all of us to encourage the next generations with love and with creative energy. Thank you, B.
Thank you, Kitty. Well, during my tenure at the Creative Education Foundation, I had the opportunity to travel with B and Sid to teach and facilitate in a number of countries. And as many of you know, you really get to know somebody when you travel with them. One thing I can say about B. Parnes is that she was one bundle of energy. When she was on the go, B was hard to keep up with. Once in Australia, we had just finished a week of day-long programming, and the suggestion was made that after we returned to Sydney later on that last day, we would attend the opera at the Sydney Opera House. Well, as tired as we all were, that isn't an offer to pass by, and so it was agreed to. As it turns out, though, B was the only person in our group to stay awake through the entire performance. B was a tenacious defender of Sid. Sid was incredibly humble, as we all know, and never put himself first. However, you did not want to be in the way if B thought that Sid was not being treated right or was not being given the credit that he was due. She looked out for Sid when he was alive, and she was his greatest defender after he passed. I believe that to be a real expression of love. B and Sid were truly partners in every sense of the word. I learned from B. Parnes, her attention to detail, her ability to tell things the way that they were, and much more. I am better for having known B. Parnes. Now that we know that many of you have been sharing your thoughts on the chat function, we encourage you to continue to do so. Additionally, if you would like to share your thoughts and reflections on the legacy of B. Parnes in a longer form after this memorial service, you can send those to the attention of Beth Miller at the Creative Education Foundation. The email address is in the email that you received this morning containing the link to this Zoom meeting. Beth has offered to compile and share any additional tributes with the Parnes family. We've heard from several people who knew B as a friend, a mentor, a leader, an inspiration, and a role model. Now we'll hear from Sue Parnes, the person who knew B best, the person who called her mom. Sue, we look forward to your closing thoughts.
Hi, everyone. I'm not going to share any stories, but if you want to reach out, I've got some gems that I could share with you. I wanted to use my 2 minutes to thank everyone, all 90 of you at one point, for attending today. Thank you to Bill Shepard, to Beth Miller, and to Gerard Puccio, who, when I presented them with this Zoom idea, they took off running with it. I will be forever grateful to you three. Thank you, David Yates, for putting all the special touches to this Zoom presentation. You're a true wizard. Thank you to all the CEF support staff, Creative Education Foundation support staff, Jamie Robinson, Jane Fisher, and all the others that I didn't even know of behind the scenes. Thank you to all our 12 special speakers and songwriter today. Your words melted my heart. I know many others on the call would have liked to speak, but you can blame me because I wanted this to be under an hour. Thank you to everyone on this call. A special shout out to my family, my friends from as far away as Israel to across the United States. Your support from my family means the world to me. I'm so appreciative of everyone's time. I want to mention that in the chat, I think, are 2 links to organizations near and dear to my mom. The Creative Education Foundation, which hosts the Creative Problem Solving Institute and runs the fellowship in honor of my dad, and the Center for Applied Imagination at Buffalo State, where the Osborne Innovation Center and the Sid and B. Parnes Library Collection are currently in progress. These 2 organizations will ensure that her passion for creative learning continues to inspire future generations.
Sue says her mom supported and believed in the longevity of both of these organizations, and that they're very valuable organizations. Thank you all again from the bottom of our hearts for attending today.
Bill,
thank you very much.
Back to you, Bill. I almost made it.
Thank you. As we come to the end of our time together, celebrating the life of B. Parnes, we felt that it would be appropriate that B have the last word, as she did so many times during her life. Thank you for being here.
B, thank you so much for taking a moment to chat with us a little bit. I would love to hear from you about what it means to be here at SIPSI, since you're such an integral part of this.
Well, it's wonderful to see the growth that's happening, and from all different people and all parts of the world. And I'm just delighted to be here.
That's awesome.
I'm 97 years old. So I've seen a lot of many years of SIPSI, and I'm just delighted to see not only but the parts of the world that we're actually affecting, and that's the most important thing for me, to see the growth that we've accomplished.
Do you have a favorite thing about coming to SIPSI each year?
Well, I didn't really come this year. I just come as an observer this year. It was just getting a little too hard for me to come all week. So we decided to just come and say hello and see who's there, because there's a lot of returnees, and that's what's important too, because that helps keep the thing growing.